there, this is Straight Talk, no sugar added. I am your host, Nina Perez, and we are here to discuss life topics to challenge and transform your thinking. Let's do this. So today I am going to introduce you to Johnny G from Refractive, and me and Johnny get into a really in-depth and very vulnerable conversation about eating the pain away, the things we have been through in our life, and what we did to deal with that was eat. And now we are trying to get our health and wellness together. So I hope that you get a lot out of this episode and that it impacts you so that if you are struggling with any of this, that you can also overcome. So here we go.
Hi, everybody. Me and my friend Nina Perez, we're so excited to welcome you to a special collaboration of our two podcasts. So this is a really special event for us. We're taking Straight Talk, no sugar added, and we're adding some refractive to it. And we are just going to make our own kind of gumbo today. How are you doing, Nina?
I'm doing great, and this is so much fun. I have been looking to collaborate with you for some time, as you know, and I'm so glad we both found that time that we can do this. So this is going to be a lot of fun, and I
Yes.
think it's going to be insightful too.
Yeah, and this is a topic that I know has touched both of our lives
Mhm.
pretty deeply. I know that my listeners will recognize the theme, and I imagine yours will too.
They will. I have another platform as well, that's called Memoirs of a Fat Girl, and that's my health and wellness journey. So
Yeah.
people know this about me. So this is
Yeah.
going to be really fun.
All right. So everybody, just to pull back the curtain, we are talking about compulsions and especially compulsive eating today, and
Yeah.
how it is so prevalent in our world. We're taught as kids that eating for comfort is a way to cope. And, I mean, all the way down to that hardwiring of the brain, it feels good to nourish ourselves, right? It feels good to take care of that basic needs. And it can run amok and become a problem later in life. I know that was the case for me. And Nina, it was the case for you too. Would you like to talk about
Yeah.
how eating for comfort became a struggle for you?
Yeah, I mean, it's still a struggle, right? I mean, it's still an everyday getting up, fighting it struggle. So for me, it was I was abused as a child, so I couldn't find comfort where I was. I wasn't really being supported, so I didn't realize that this was what I was doing as a child. But I got really addicted to sugar. So it was like sugar sandwiches and, spoonfuls of sugar and candy and whatever. And I think that the hardest thing about having an addiction like food is that it's so accessible and you need it. Like you
Yes.
need it to survive.
Mhm.
So, for me, it was a way to cope with shame, with heartache, feeling lonely. It was my friend. It was
Yeah.
there for me, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, like, if I walk down the street drinking from a bourbon bottle, people are going to look. But if I walk down the
Right.
street eating a burger, like nobody looks at all, because it's so easy
Yeah.
for compulsive eating, for eating for comfort and pain to look normal, right?
Normal. Yep.
It's more accepted by society than some of the other compulsions.
It's so true. And, I don't know if you went through this, because I also hid it,
Mhm.
so I ate some of it in front of you.
Yes. Yes,
So
you're
so you
speaking
would
my
think I was normal, so I
yes,
ate some of it in front of you, but
that's
don't turn
right.
your back because I'm out. I'm
That's
taking
right.
that stuff with me.
Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Nina, absolutely. And, for me, while I wasn't abused as a kid, I grew up in a pretty conservative area, and I was a gay kid. And back then, in the late '80s and early '90s,
Mhm.
it was just not okay. And I went to all boys schools, and it was tough. And I just didn't know what to do with
Mhm.
all of the pain and the rejection and the feelings that came up from that sense of emotional isolation. And just like you, I ate, and then I hid when I ate the extra. I remember in college I had a job at this restaurant, and I took a piece of cheesecake in a to-go box, and I went into the bathroom and sat in the stall and ate it in the bathroom, like in
I
the middle
totally
of the
get
show,
that.
like
I
while
totally
customers
get
are there.
that.
Yes, it's so crazy. Like, I can't even, people who haven't gone through what we're going through
Yeah.
can't even understand how you do
Yeah.
that, you know?
I know. And what you're saying, I can't even see myself doing that. I totally relate. And I'm a chef by trade,
Oh,
right? So
I didn't even
all
realize that.
yeah, I'm an executive chef. I'm a director of a culinary operation. That's what I do now. And so I'm around food quite a bit and
Mhm.
good food because we do a lot of farm to table and everything is from scratch and everything is delicious. And it's like, yeah, I always have to control myself. I always have to be like, okay, yep, I'm going downstairs to my office and I leave because I literally have to remove myself
Yes.
and I still fail. There's days I fail. Like
Yes.
my son, my son was like, "Mom, where's all the Reese's peanut butter cups?" I'm like, "Well, you left them there." I
Mhm.
literally ate the entire bag. You know? And he's
Yes.
like, "Really, Mom?" I'm like, "Really?"
Yeah.
Because I have a compulsion, right? So
Yeah.
if I eat one and there's 3 and 4, I got to eat the 3 and 4. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's a daily struggle still.
So before we go into the meat of this, where we talk about the role of pain and how
Mm,
we use these compulsions to deal with it, I want to mention kind of like my uh, a bottom in the recovery community. We call it the bottom, right? So where eating to mask that pain led me,
mm.
I ended up in my early 30s at 425 pounds. And I had gotten to the point, I had been a corporate trainer, and I got to the point where by standing in front of a room all day facilitating, when I finished for the day, my feet would like throb and they would be
Mhm.
huge and swollen. And I had varicose veins and all of this. And um, I would finish the day and order 2 room service dinners and things like that and sit in my hotel and eat it. Um, I was on 5 prescriptions, including 3
Wow.
blood pressure medicines. I was strapped to a CPAP machine, and I traveled for my job, and I would get into those airplanes, and God bless whoever
Worst.
had to sit next to me because I was taking up half of their seat no matter what.
Right.
And that was the life that I built for myself by using food to handle my pain,
Mhm.
until the day I was desperate enough to learn to start processing the pain in a different way. What was it like for you?
Sometimes I wonder, I get frustrated because I wonder sometimes if I even hit the bottom yet,
Yeah,
because it's still such a struggle.
yeah.
But for me I was having severe amounts of pain throughout my whole body. So I think the highest I reached is maybe close to 260 and I'm only 5'2". So there you go.
Mhm,
Right. So,
mhm.
same thing with me. I have they give you that airplane belt extension that doesn't really
Yeah,
extend.
yeah, yeah,
I was like, I still can't clip this. This is a problem. So
yeah,
I was having pain throughout my entire body. And I thought I had, I went through like 4 different doctors. Nobody could figure it out. They thought I had lupus, Lyme's disease, all that stuff. It ended up being that my body was rejecting certain things I was eating. I was becoming intolerant because I was having and consuming so much of it.
oh,
So
yeah,
like gluten, dairy, things like that. My body was like, okay, that's enough. And
yeah,
that's what happened. Like my joints and my body were kind of breaking down and fighting against itself.
yeah,
And I'm like, I have to do something. I'm
right,
pre-diabetic. I'm about to start on cholesterol medication, diabetes medication. Like something has to change.
yeah,
Um, but honestly, Johnny, sometimes I feel like frustrated because I'm like, did I hit bottom yet? Because sometimes I still struggle. And I guess maybe I'll
yes,
struggle with it all my life, right?
right,
But
right,
there is a fear of going back up. I mean, I
that's
haven't
right,
lost a lot, but there is definitely a fear. I still have about 70 so pounds to lose.
mhm,
And it's a daily fight. It's a daily
yes,
fight. So I got to get
yes,
up with that mindset always, you can do this. Today is a new day. You can do this, you
Yes,
know?
yes, absolutely. It's the same for me. In fact, last night I had two huge bowls of oatmeal before bed. I was hungry. It's like one, I just couldn't do it. I had to make a second bowl. And, I'm grateful it was oatmeal,
Right.
because there's a time in my life where it would have been two pizzas or two
Right.
cakes or
Right.
two things of ice cream. So, yeah. So, when you and I were kind of co-designing this episode, we talked about how pain is actually a gift.
Yeah.
The reason we get a toothache is because there's something that needs to be taken care of before it causes too much damage. And,
Right.
we have this emotional pain that we go through. And, in our society, we shove it down and we cover it with
Mm-hmm.
liquor or food
Mm-hmm.
or gambling or sex or work or cleaning the house
Mm-hmm.
or codependency or whatever it is. And so, how do you think this emotional and mental pain that we have is actually helpful?
I think that if you're going to do work on yourself, like self-care, and really look at yourself, you need to have the pain points because otherwise you're not paying attention. For me, right, it was depression, anxiety, right? That was my pain. Those were my pain points. And so I had to start changing my mindset. And I
Mm,
only knew that those things were happening because I started to experience those things, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
as depression started to become a thing where I wouldn't get out of bed and that kind of stuff, or I was in a room and I thought I was like gonna, drown with like this anxiety, I realized, okay, something's going on here. How do we deal with this? And
yeah,
that's what I started doing, is trying to work on myself, doing
right,
self-care, looking at it in the eye and figuring out what it is. A lot of it,
yeah,
believe it or not, came from unforgiveness.
yeah,
It came from that pain, from what happened to me as a child and my life, my past. And then I'm like, I have to deal with these issues. So
yeah,
to answer your question, that's what it did. The depression and stuff being the pain point, I had to start taking care of myself. I couldn't
mhm,
ignore it anymore.
yeah, that's right,
I
man.
can eat a whole box of Krispy Kreme donuts by myself. Okay. By
Yes,
myself. And especially if they're warm.
amateur, amateur. I would go to Buca de Beppo, okay, the family style restaurant on Friday at the end of the work week, and I would get two catering trays of pasta and a
Oh, wow.
quarter of a cake, and that was my Friday night. And the
Wow,
thing
that's a
is that,
carb load. Whew.
oh my God. It would, by the end of eating all of that in the period of like 20 minutes,
Wow.
my body would like shut down. I would just pass out from
Yeah.
the fat, the sugar, the grease,
Yeah.
the carbs. I couldn't handle it. You know what I mean?
So
And,
20 minutes. So you're a fast eater as well?
oh yeah, it was
Because I
like,
can
yeah.
eat like that.
Oh yeah, it was a spectacle. It was a spectacle. And like you mentioned, I find, that pain is like a check engine light. And
Hmm.
you
That's
can't
good.
compare out because, for some people going through a death of a loved one or going through being fired or going through whatever, it's just a part of life. And for other people, it spirals them
Yeah.
into to something deeper. And um a good measurement for me was, if I'm doing something I don't want to do, right? I don't want to eat until it hurts my body. I
Right.
don't want to eat until it shuts me down from chemical overload, but
Right.
I was doing it and I couldn't not do it. And there's the test for me. Is something is That's the check engine light. Is something so out of control, is something so painful that I'm doing something I don't want to do and can't stop.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it becomes something like, it's like this love hate thing, right? It's like you do it, you hate that you do it, but you almost like love to do it. It's like this weird thing. And then after you do it, and I don't know if that's the way you feel, but I always feel so angry with myself that I let myself go there,
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
again, so this is vicious self-sabotaging
That's right.
behavior, and that's what I'm trying to figure out, right? Is why do I keep self-sabotaging? You know, why don't I think I'm valuable enough to not keep sabotaging myself? Because I would
Yes,
never let you do that. If you were
that's
with me,
right.
I wouldn't let you do that,
Oh yeah,
you
you're
know?
speaking my language.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know why we do that to ourselves. And I know we're
Yeah.
not alone in this.
No, no. And that was the turning point for me. I was in a drive-through, and it was the fourth drive-through I went to in a row. There were four fast food places next to each other, um and as I was ordering five, six, seven items from each place,
Wow.
there was this, I remember, um this inner voice that was like yelling. It's like, why are you hurting yourself? Stop. And I
Right.
ordered another thing. And
Yeah.
it's like, why stop? Don't, you're hurting yourself. And I
Hmm.
ordered another
Hmm.
thing. And I'm eating from the last place I went to while I'm ordering the next thing. And maybe not everybody listening has gone through those extremes that you and I are talking about. But anytime we are doing something that is not good for our life,
Right. Right.
despite the fact that we don't want to do it, it deserves attention, you
Yep.
know? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, and you're right. I mean, and I think you mentioned this earlier too. It doesn't have to be food, right? It could be anything, right? People get addicted to opioids and they didn't
Yes,
even realize they were addicted, right? They
that's
just,
right.
and I don't know if you went through this as well or go through this. I always used to have that mentality. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow.
Mhm.
I'll do it
Yeah.
tomorrow. And then
Yeah.
tomorrow is 20 years later and I'm still
Yeah.
doing it tomorrow,
Yeah.
you know, and I
Yeah.
still didn't get my life together. And it's like now
Mhm.
I am 48 years old and, 70, 80 pounds overweight. And I'm just like, okay, are we still going to wait for tomorrow?
Mhm.
Because
Yeah.
you've been waiting
Yeah.
for 20 years, girlfriend. I don't think it's coming, you know?
That's right.
At
That's
some
why
point,
those
you just
recovery
have to begin.
programs,
Yeah.
that's why those recovery programs say just for today, because they know tomorrow never comes. Yeah.
Isn't that true? You'll always, I don't know if everybody's brain works like that. I just know that for me, I make jokes about this on on my other podcast. I'm always like, Listen, I'm a fat girl. Let me tell you how fat girls think."
Mhm.
I said,
Mhm.
I always wait till the first or the first of the week or the,
Mhm.
the next day or the
Mhm.
beginning of the year. Yeah, yeah, that's when,
That's right.
instead of starting like you just mentioned today, just
Yeah.
starting
Yeah.
today. Yeah.
That's right. One of some of the notes that you and I were talking about that I think are so rich. You
Hmm.
mentioned just earlier about why am I sabotaging myself? And there's so much around self-worth and boundaries and
Yeah.
codependency and external validation, and it just leads to this cycle of shame, you
Hmm.
know what do you think about, like, what are your thoughts on how shame applies to this?
Oh man, I just did a whole thing on shame because I realized as I'm growing up, as I wrote my book, as I'm doing all of this, that I realized there's two types of shame, at least the way I see it, right? It's the shame of what people did to me and I couldn't do anything about it. And I felt ashamed that it happened to me.
Yeah.
And then there's also shame that I carried from things I've done, things that I've done that I'm not proud of. And, shame played a huge part in validating my or feeling worthy, because
Mhm.
I did things that I'm ashamed of.
Yeah.
So it just makes me feel like almost like a beat up of myself. I was
Yeah.
almost eating to beat myself up,
Yeah.
even though I felt like I should be doing something better for me. Because if it was like I said, if I was with you right now and you told me, oh, I'm going to go have that pizza or those two pies, I would say, absolutely not, not on my
Right.
watch,
Right. Yeah.
because I would care about you and I care externally about people very much. But there's something about, just digging in and saying, you have to care about you too, girlfriend.
Mhm.
This is you're important too.
Yeah.
So shame plays a huge part in
Mhm.
how you feel. And when you're overweight, you're now ashamed of being overweight.
That's the
So,
thing.
yeah, like, so now you're beating yourself up for two things, like the
Yeah.
shame you're inside and your shame on how you look on the outside. So
Yeah.
you're pulling your shirt all the time, you're fixing your
Mhm.
sleeves,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, I'm sure you've experienced that, right? How do you
Oh,
feel about the shame playing a part in your journey?
oh man. Shame was a trigger for my eating. I got to tell you, if ever I had a layover between flights, I guarantee the first thing I went and did was found food because I was so ashamed
Right. Right.
of the seat hurting me or
Mm-hmm.
taking up the space of another person and making them uncomfortable. I was just so ashamed. And anytime I had shame, if I mean, I wasn't dating very much by the time I got to that weight, but earlier than that, when I was maybe 300 pounds and I still would go on a date from time to time, if the date didn't go well, or if I felt I wasn't seen as attractive enough after the date, I would
Mm-hmm.
go eat,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because shame was a trigger for me. Um, Anxiety was a trigger
Mm-hmm.
for me,
Mm-hmm.
anger was a trigger for
Oh,
me.
me too. Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. Tell me,
Yeah.
tell me.
No, I mean, I don't know what that is either, right? That's like, I realize that I am an emotional eater. So I do eat when I go through emotions. If I'm very nervous, I eat. If I'm angry, like if somebody truly like betrayed me or pissed me off, I go eat. If I'm bored,
Right.
I'm like, okay, what is in the pantry? You know what I'm saying? Like, I need to find, oh, maybe I'll make some popcorn and do this and make that. I mean, and I'm a chef, right? So if I'm bored, the first thing I'm doing is creating like these meals in my head, and then I'm out there looking for stuff. I'll even get to the point where I'm just like, I'll be back. I'm gonna go to the store and get some ice cream. It's like 10 o'clock at night. What am I doing going to the
Yeah.
supermarket to get ice cream?
Right.
I don't
Yeah.
need that. But
Mhm.
yeah, shame is huge, and emotional eating is huge. And a lot of people don't even realize they're doing that. I don't know if you do this, but I'm also sometimes a mindless eater. So I'm not even thinking.
Mhm.
I did an
Mhm.
episode on how I ate an entire box, and I know this is probably amateur, but I ate a whole box of Fig Newtons. They're my favorites,
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh
So
yeah.
I had this big family size pack, and I put it next to me, and I'm typing on the computer, and I'm mindlessly eating.
Mhm.
I get to the last one, and I'm like putting my hand in the box, like, oh shoot.
Mhm.
Said to my husband, I said, please tell me you ate some of these cookies. He goes, no, I hate Fig Newtons. I'm like,
Oh my
oh
God.
my gosh, I just ate a whole box by myself in
Uh
one sitting.
the,
Like,
the sensible
you
shoe
know,
just dropped.
yeah.
Yeah, Oh my God.
Oh my gosh, this is real
Mhm.
stuff,
Yeah,
right? I
it
mean,
is.
so do you go through that as well? Like, do you now that you've lost quite a bit of weight, and I don't think you mentioned how much you've lost, but now that
Mm-mm.
you've lost that weight, do you find yourself sometimes going back to those old habits, those
Oh,
triggers?
for sure. So
Yeah.
I am a compulsive eater. Like you said,
Mhm.
I don't know if that'll ever go away.
Right.
I lost 200 pounds.
Okay.
And that was
That's
not through
huge.
surgery or anything.
Wow.
It was through recovery programs for compulsive eating. And that was wonderful. But like you said that you have about 70 pounds to go. For me, my weight does go up and down.
Mhm.
Right now, I have about 80 pounds that I would need to lose if I got to my healthy doctor prescribed body weight.
Right.
And, hey, I'm glad to be 80 pounds overweight as opposed to
Yeah.
200 and some odd pounds
Yeah.
overweight. But, I can live a normal life. I can get on a plane. I can do that now.
Yeah.
I'm just a heavy guy. I'm just
Right.
like one of those heavy guys you see. But
Yeah.
I still go through compulsive eating. When I go to the store, I need to stay away from the ice cream
Yeah.
aisle
Me too. Me too.
because if I romanticize it for just a second longer than I need to, I can look at it for a minute or two. Once I go longer than that, like I can't pull back. I've gone too
Yeah.
far into the
Yeah.
quicksand and I can't get out. And I'm gonna spend $25 on junk food,
Right.
and
Are you
eat
a
it in the
sugar
car.
addict as well? Do you like are you more into like the fat and salty? Or are you into more like the sweet sugar,
Sweets is my
Yeah,
first love,
mine
but I
too.
gotta tell you, fat and salty is a close second, Yeah.
Me too.
Mhm.
Sometimes combined,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Ice cream with a little bacon on top. There you
Oh,
go.
come on, that's right. So, yeah, so that's I still face that. Um, I still face that. I'm lucky because like my face doesn't show it so much. So like on Zoom, I'm like, oh, look how cute I look. But
You're adorable,
I still
actually.
have like that. I still have I'll just say a little pear shape going on, you know.
Nice.
Mhm.
Listen, you're still 200 pounds less. Can I ask you though how you did that? Because that's huge, right? So
Yeah.
that's an everyday battle. I'm sure that is like getting up every day and making a decision, right?
hmm
Is
So yeah, it was really through recovery. It was through recovery through 12 steps,
okay.
and uh, it came down to um it came down to identifying which foods and which behaviors, not just
Okay.
foods,
Yeah.
but
Yep.
behaviors that I had a record of abusing. So I knew,
Okay.
for example, that if I went through a drive-through, even if my intention was to order a salad, even after losing a significant amount of this weight in recovery, if I went through a drive-through, there was a really good chance like I couldn't escape without binging.
Right.
So I had to stop going through drive-throughs no matter what.
Okay.
I could get
Okay.
out of the car and go into a Subway or whatever, and I could order whatever I need, but drive-throughs were off limit.
Okay.
For a while, it was also eating in the kitchen was off limits because these were behaviors that once I started, I
That's
just
good.
knew it took a superhuman amount of strength for me to stop. These are things I didn't want to do, but I couldn't stop it nonetheless.
Right.
And
Right.
then I made a list of the foods that I called them were noisy in my head. I
Mm-hmm.
knew that if I bought, and not all of them were unhealthy foods, but there were noisy foods, and I just had to leave them alone. Like you
Okay.
said, remove your body from them.
Mm-hmm.
I had to
Mm-hmm.
say, I'm not going to buy fried food no matter what. And even if I go to somebody's house and that's what they served, I'm going to have to face the courage to say, thank you so much. It looks great. And I just can't eat that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so once things made that list, I had red light foods, I had yellow light foods, which I had a more likely record of not binging on, but I certainly could.
Right.
And if anything was a red light food, no, I don't eat dog food and I don't eat that.
Right. Oh, that's
That was
good.
my mantra. I don't
That's
eat dog
good.
food and I don't eat dessert. I don't eat
Right.
dog food and I don't eat pasta.
I think I'm
'Cause
gonna steal that.
yeah, yeah, it's just not food
Seriously.
for me. It's not food
Right.
for me. Dog
Right.
food's not good for me and pasta's not good for me. It might be
Right.
great for someone else. It's not
Right.
good for me.
Yeah.
So that's what I would if someone asked me for advice, I would say make a list. Go through go through your whole history and make a list of what foods and behaviors feel out of control when you start them,
That's
and
so good.
just love yourself enough to say, I just won't start it. Because if you
Right.
don't start it, you don't have to stop. And it doesn't mean forever. It doesn't mean
Right.
forever.
Right.
It means
Right.
for now, at this time in my life, I can't buy ice cream. And am I willing to let go of ice cream uh, for
That's good.
serenity, for
Mm-hmm.
serenity. And that means that if all my friends say, let's go get yogurt today, it just means that I can go with them. But I know if I take one bite, I'm going to go to
It's
the
not one bite.
supermarket tonight
Right.
afterwards and
Right.
I'm going to buy ice cream.
Right. And that's something, right? You have to know your triggers. You have to know your triggers. That's really good advice. And I'm going to take that advice actually. I never thought about like doing a list and putting like the red, foods like don't touch these, just don't. I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I do now with like gluten because I know gluten it hurts me for days and days when I take it. So
Yeah.
I just don't. And
Right.
I have the same thing, Johnny. Like we went somewhere, I forgot where me and my husband went. Oh, we went to the mall and they had those soft pretzels,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, let's just get a few. Well, of course, I paid the price for like 4 days, right?
Yes.
But it's like, why did I even do that? Like, I could have gotten something else, that could have gotten a bowl of fruit. I could have gotten anything, but I just
Mm-hmm.
wanted the soft pretzels. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And I just,
Yeah.
I have to do what you did. Like, I don't eat dog food, so I don't eat gluten or I don't eat
Yeah.
these. I just don't,
That's
you
right.
know?
That's right.
That's a good way to look at it. Good
Yeah,
way.
yeah. And like once for me, I can only talk about for me. Once the sanity had returned to me for a period of time, then I could dip my toe in the water.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
okay, someone's serving ice cream. I'm gonna do a test. After I eat this ice cream, am I thinking about ice cream for the next 3 days?
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
I am, then it's still red light for me.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
That's
that's it.
good.
And sometimes your list changes.
Yeah.
For me, pizza, I can't do pizza. Like, even if I just have one piece of pizza, like I just can't. I
Right.
can't.
Right.
I will go back, maybe not today, maybe 2 days from now, and then it's off to the races. And I'm gonna
Right.
have to
And
stop
you're
all over
talking
again.
real. You're
Yeah.
talking real stuff because
Yeah.
that's actually true. It's almost like it just sits in the back of your head, literally talking to you every day, and you
Yeah.
can't even get it out of your mind, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like,
Yeah.
Why are we thinking about this still?" This is
Mhm.
why every time I go down south, like whether it's Florida or Georgia or anything, I cannot ever get Krispy Kreme donuts. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not joking. I
That's
can
right.
literally inhale an entire dozen and
Yes.
probably more if you let me, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
when we go and as soon as they say, "Hey, no, don't
Right.
even mention it. Don't talk about it."
Right.
On top of the fact that it's sugar, it's also gluten and dairy, which I can't have.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm just like, so I don't eat dog food. I don't eat Krispy Kreme
That's right.
donuts.
That's right.
Johnny, I'm taking it. I'm telling
And
you.
look, Nina, this is what I would say too. Like, can you love yourself enough to tell
Yeah.
your family
Yeah.
no? No.
Right.
To tell your because Nina, were you ever a smoker?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
and
was.
do you still smoke?
No, no, it's been 25 years.
Okay, so but you know that if you had a cigarette today, you'd be fine.
Yeah,
You could smoke one cigarette
and
and you'd
probably
be
never touch
fine.
it again. Yeah.
But then, well, wait though. Tomorrow or 3 or 4
Oh,
days from now, you'd be like, well, I had a cigarette. It wasn't a problem. Like, it wasn't a
right.
problem. I'm fine.
Right.
So the next time someone
Right.
offers you a cigarette, you're like, oh, okay, it's not a problem. And then during the conversation, you're like, let me get a second one. Right. But then you're fine. And you might go another couple of days and you're like, see, it's not a problem. I can take it or leave it now. But then all of a sudden you're like, well, I don't want to ask someone for cigarettes. Let me just buy a pack and I can just keep it in case wherever.
So true.
Yes. And the thing is that people look at heavy people and they think, what a loser. Why doesn't this person try
Right.
to like take
Right.
care of himself? What a gross, lazy person who doesn't
Yep.
care about himself. But it's not. It's like smoking. It's
Yep.
like that's why diets don't work for people like me.
Right.
Because once things feel like it's not dangerous anymore,
Gosh, so
I'm like,
true.
oh, it's not bad. And then it's not tomorrow that I fall off the truck, but all of a sudden, 2 weeks from now, I don't know how I ended up back where I started.
Yes.
You
Yes.
know,
No,
that's
you're
the
speaking
thing.
it. That's so true.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. I'm glad you said that because diets don't work for me either. I've had to change my whole life thinking, the way I think and the way I feel about myself. Every time I start a diet, Johnny, I like say it's, I don't know, 90 days on paleo or keto or whatever it is. I might do the 90 days, but once I hit that 90 days, off I go. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Like,
Right.
I'm free now. I could do whatever.
Mhm.
And it never worked for me. I remember way back, I did Atkins, right? I lost like 65 pounds or something. I looked amazing. The minute that I got to the thing I had to do, which was my wedding, I started eating carbs again and
That's
blew
right.
up to 85 more pounds. Like,
That's right.
what the heck, right? But
That's right.
you're right. I mean, it's all about like making it completely about a lifestyle to
Yeah.
care about yourself and
Yes.
not about a diet plan. A diet plan, like maybe like having some parameters would be good, but
Mhm.
not just doing it for a certain amount of time. That doesn't work for me.
Right. And I was saying, I got sidetracked, but I was saying, can you love yourself enough to tell your family no? If your
Right.
partner was an alcoholic in
Yes.
recovery, would
Hmm.
you go buy a bottle of bourbon and drink it in front of your partner? Like,
Right.
that's not supportive. And so if Nina, if your red light foods are X, Y, and Z, like it's just a fact. The people you live with are gonna have to not bring it into the house. And
So
you
true.
need to understand that I will hurt myself with this if you bring
Yeah.
it. Do you
Yeah.
want me to hurt myself? I can't stop. So
Yeah.
please love me enough to go eat your Krispy Kremes when you're not with me. It's not that much to
Yes.
ask, but we don't
Yes.
think we're worth it,
Yes.
Nina. We don't
Yes.
think we're worth it. We
Right.
think a normal person should be able to handle this, and I'm not going to inconvenience my loved ones by making
Right.
them suffer. Well, you know
Yep.
what? Too bad. It's not suffering that you can't bring Krispy Kremes into the house. Deal with
Right. Yeah, deal with it. Exactly. And you know what another thing is, and I don't know if you've ever done this, but I have I have children, my husband, okay. So what I do, and I've had to stop doing, is I buy it for them.
it. Yeah.
So I buy what I really want,
Yeah.
but not for me, for
Yeah.
them. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I don't know
That's
if that's
right.
a way to self-soothe. You know what I
Mm.
mean? Like, oh, my husband loves Reese's peanut butter cups. So I'll buy him because he can
Yeah.
have anything. He's fine.
Yeah.
I'll buy him Reese's peanut butter cups. But then I'm like, damn, he's having Reese's peanut butter
Mm-hmm.
cups, you
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a self-soothing thing, like watching
Mhm.
them eat these things makes me feel better. I don't know.
Yeah,
It's
I don't
weird.
believe you, Nina. I don't believe you. I think you buy those Reese's peanut butter cups to keep that door cracked for yourself to have some
Oh, for
Reese's peanut
sure.
butter cups.
Oh, yeah, for 100%.
We call you out for a second.
100%.
We're gonna have real
100
talk, straight talk, no sugar
straight to
added.
exactly.
Yeah. That's right.
But that is all that's facts.
Yeah.
You're dropping facts.
Yeah.
Because I do tend to start thinking about it and, oh, I know where he keeps them. And, but
Mhm.
I bought them. I
Yeah.
bought them,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
But you're
That's
right.
right.
I mean, I think so. I think it goes both ways. I think, yes, our families do have to be involved in our recovery. And this is really a recovery process, a daily
Yeah.
one, a
Yeah.
daily one. Because,
That's
like I
right.
said in the beginning, we also need food to survive. So, for somebody like you and I who has eating problems, eating disorders, compulsions, it's a very difficult thing to manage because it is something you do need to survive. You do need food. I don't know about you, but I was also never taught on how to eat properly,
Mhm. Mhm.
especially growing up, right? So we really came from poverty and my mother had like welfare and stuff like that, so we would get like a lot of sugary
That's
cereals and
right.
that kind of stuff because it was cheap,
That's
right?
the
So
cheap
everything was in a
stuff.
can. Exactly, it was all in cans, all in boxes. She was a great cook, but we're Hispanic also, so it was a lot of rice and things like that. I just never learned how to eat right,
Yeah.
and so I found a
Yeah.
lot of comfort in bad food,
Yeah. That's
so
right.
yeah. And you're still dealing with it as an adult, right, Johnny? I mean, you grow up
100%.
and you're like, I'm an adult. I should be able to do this.
Yep. No, I don't cook. I don't cook like casseroles.
Right.
I don't cook. I can't. They call me. They're like in the refrigerator, like Johnny, Johnny, Johnny.
Johnny,
It'd be
that's
so
real.
cool for you to just eat me while you watch TV.
Right,
Come
right,
on.
right. Just
Like,
relax.
yeah,
You worked hard. You worked
yeah,
hard.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There are things I can't do, and you know, um, we talked about kind of what to do if eating is a problem, and a
Mm.
couple of intensities. Do you have the notes on that? Do you want to cover some of those points?
Yeah. If eating is a problem, like we were talking about, mindfulness is the most effective self-defense, right? The most effective. And I agree with that. Now, I know you are really big on this as well. So I'd love you to touch on this. So, how do you incorporate mindfulness into
Oh,
like this daily struggle? How do you do
yeah,
that?
that's right. So one of the tenets of like I'm a coach and I have a coaching practice, and like one of my
Mm-hmm.
tenets is you already know, you already are. Like this is a deep truth for me. And it's because we have all of the
So true.
guidance and knowledge we need built into us. It's hardwired in us. But the
Mm-hmm.
thing is that when you stop listening to it, it gets quieter and quieter and quieter.
Mm-hmm.
So the process of like being aware of what's happening right now allows me to know, am I really hungry? Like, wait, because sometimes hunger and let's say a shame trigger or an anger trigger or an
Oh, that's
anxiety
good.
trigger feels similar. So it takes a minute to say, am I really hungry right now? or am I just upset?
Yeah.
And so that mindfulness of coming into the present moment and examining the moment,
Mhm.
that is so valuable.
So good. Do you use that in conjunction to also walk away from a meal? Like say something's in front of you and you're like upset about something, or do you also say, okay, hold on, and walk away for a second to think?
Oh, that is difficult beyond measure. Like,
Mhm.
to leave something on the plate, and
Mhm.
it's really hard. I can't say that I haven't done that. Yes, I have. But what I try to do is apply mindfulness into serving my plate.
Okay.
Because once it's on the plate, it's almost unthinkable to leave
Yeah, me too.
4 beans on the plate. There's just no way. Like
Me too. Is that
I'm
an
cleaning the
upbringing
plate.
thing, you think?
What's that?
Do you think that's part of the upbringing? Like
It
cleaning your
could a
plate?
lot. I think a lot. I think for I think yeah, I think that there's definitely a cultural aspect to that. But for me, I think it's less cultural. I hear a lot of people say that it's like they were raised in a situation where
Mhm.
if you wasted food, like it was a big deal,
Mine,
you
mhm.
know?
It's a
Yeah,
huge deal, yeah, and
yeah,
so I find myself doing the same thing. I find myself cleaning my plate. Nothing gets thrown out, and I'm a chef, right? And I work in a place where my kitchen is about sustainability, so we use everything.
yeah.
We grow our own garden, all of that stuff, right?
Mhm.
So, it's a phenomenal way to be, but it also, as a person who gets triggered, right? When something's on my plate, it has to be eaten.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
sometimes I'll serve myself a smaller plate, but you know what I don't do all the time is sit down after I've eaten that and say, "Is this enough?"
Oh, that's so helpful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like you served yourself what a normal person would eat. Are you okay right now? Because
yeah,
sometimes I won't think about it because I'm a fast eater. So I eat really fast. And then,
yeah.
of course, it's not even the signal didn't even go up to the brain yet to say
No.
you're full.
Yeah,
I'll go get myself that second plate. Now I'm over full.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah.
Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about.
For sure. And like we mentioned earlier that not everybody has the same extreme relationship with food that you and I have experienced,
Right.
and so for those listeners who just can't quite relate to this,
Mhm.
I think that eating for comfort from time to time is normal part of our experience in
Yeah.
society. The
Yeah.
same way that some people, when they have a hard day, sit down with a glass of wine or two. Like
Exactly.
that's normal. Like that's typical and that's fine. If you're upset and you find yourself eating a half of a pint of ice cream, like that's fine.
Mhm.
But when it becomes you doing things you don't want to do, that's the difference here. So I recommend for people who find themselves occasionally eating in a compulsive way, those are the people that I think diets really help, or having an accountability buddy.
Mhm.
Because
Mhm.
shame, we talked about shame.
Yeah.
Shame lives in darkness.
Yes, it does.
When you shine light on shame, it evaporates. And so calling someone and saying, listen, best friend, I really feel like I want to eat a pint of ice cream right now. And I know that it's not good for me. And will you just tell me that it's okay and that I don't need to eat that? Having
Right.
someone else say, yeah, we've all been there and it doesn't sound good for you.
Right.
Like that is powerful
It is.
because the shame evaporates.
Right. But you need the right people too, Johnny, because some people will go ahead, girl. It's just
That's
for
right.
today. It's only that pint of ice cream. And you're like, no,
Yes.
that's not what I need to
No, no, no.
hear.
You have to set that up in advance. You have to set up that
Yeah, you have to set up
accountability in
right.
advance. Good
Right.
point. I'm glad you said that because I forgot that. Yeah, you definitely need to say, when I call you, because food is a
Yeah.
pattern food is a problem for me. I
Yeah.
really need you to speak to me from a place of balance.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I told my husband, I said, honey, sometimes I think you love me to death. I
Hmm.
think you're loving me to death. And he goes, what do you mean? I'm like, you're always wanting, because he always wants to make sure I'm comforted, right? So he'll bring stuff home that he's not supposed to. And I'm like, I cannot eat. Okay, you're going to kill me. I know you love me to death, but I don't think it's literally like you don't have to kill me now, you know?
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you're so dramatic, but it's not. I don't think they realize that, yes, I'm a strong person. I work hard. I have a, I'm a go-getter. That's who I am. So I think
Mhm.
people don't see too much weaknesses in me, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I know that this is one of them.
Yeah.
I know
That's
it
right.
is,
Yeah.
this is a daily struggle. And so, for those of you who are listening and watching, you're not alone if you are struggling. You are
No.
not alone, and you're not crazy either. Because sometimes
No.
you feel like, am I crazy? What am I doing? You're not crazy. This is something all of us go through. And
Yes.
it's good to have a good support system. It's
Yes.
really good. And if you don't have anyone around you that is a support system, or somebody, you don't have a big family or anything like that, find yourself a group that can support you.
That's right.
Um, right? I mean, you were talking about that earlier. I mean, you went through a program yourself, and those
Mhm.
are really, they can be very helpful.
Right, exactly. Because there's like a whole spectrum of help out there.
Mm-hmm.
If you're someone who's only occasionally out of control, get a diet and get an accountability buddy.
Right.
If you're finding yourself out of control frequently, even if your life isn't off track, then get a nutritionist,
Mm-hmm.
get a therapist, right?
Yep.
These are
Yep.
people who can really help uh kind of help heal before it becomes too dramatic. If the quality of life is impacted for you, then
Yeah.
there are some more serious options. And I'll just mention there are treatment facilities for eating disorders,
Mm-hmm.
where you
Mm-hmm.
can do inpatient or outpatient. You can Google that and find some of those. There's 12-step programs. There's a couple of different varieties of 12-step programs that deal
Right.
with eating disorders. And so you can Google that as well. And,
Mm-hmm.
of course, 12-step programs are free. They don't cost anything. And,
I didn't know
they
that.
typically,
That's good.
yeah, they typically apply the same tools and methods that are used with alcohol to other
Okay.
compulsions. And so that is those are the type of treatment programs that I used and that helped me. And so there's that whole spectrum, and you can research what feels right for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And also, I think a big part would be self-acceptance.
Yes.
Knowing who you are.
Yeah.
Accept who you are. It's okay.
Yeah.
My son is, oh, he's older now, so he's definitely learned to embrace himself. My son is gay.
Mhm.
And when he was younger, when he was struggling with that, he also found a lot of comfort in food. By
Yeah.
the time he was about 13 years old, he was way into the 200 pounds. He's like 220
Yeah.
at 13, you
Yeah.
know? So once he found himself and he accepted who he was, and he said, Mom, I'm gay. And embraced that. Now he lifts weights all the time. He's in sports and nutrition, like all of that. Like as soon as you start to embrace your flaws, if you have flaws, and what you are and who you are as a person too, that also helps us.
Yeah.
And to release any kind of shame that you're holding,
That's right.
especially shame that was put on you, that's not even your shame to hold. Take that off first.
That's
Just
right.
get rid of that.
That's right.
It's, if somebody did something to you, that's on them, not on you.
That's right. That's
And
right.
if you did do something you're ashamed of, forgive yourself.
Mhm.
Forgiveness is huge. And
Yes.
when you start to forgive the person who hurt you and yourself, there's just this weight that lifts right off of you. Start to see a little bit more clearly, right?
Mhm.
Because this thing that me and you have, Johnny, is a mental game, really.
Mhm.
Nobody's
Mhm.
forcing us to get anything in our hands. Nobody's
Mhm.
forcing us to put anything down our throats. It's all in the mind, right? It's all in
Yes.
how we feel at that moment and what we're following, right?
Yes. And
So
yeah.
yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the programs. I didn't realize that some of them were free. That's
Mhm.
fantastic.
Yeah. Like those inpatient and outpatient programs aren't necessarily free, but like
Yeah,
12-step fellowships are always free. Like that's
right.
that's that's a part of it. And um yeah, it's just it's a like I said, shame lives in darkness. And the minute that we can find enough courage, I won't even say love for ourselves because maybe that comes later, but the
Yeah.
minute you can find enough courage to go to someone that won't ridicule you and say,
Mhm. Mhm.
I just feel really heavy in my
Mhm.
heart about XYZ,
Mhm.
that burden starts to lift.
Yeah.
And because like you said with your son, it's shame is a trigger. And
Yeah.
it's about finding that peace and love. Yeah.
Yeah. This is such a great conversation, Johnny. Oh my gosh. And I learned a lot. I'm going to look into a few of those things you mentioned. Definitely one of the takeaways for me from our conversation is besides the self-care is the mindfulness, like having that
Hmm.
mindfulness when you're eating,
Yeah.
putting the grouping of foods, right? So this is my red, this is yellow, this is green. That
Yeah.
is brilliant, brilliant, because I'm very methodical. I need things done a certain way and I'm very organized that way. So that would work for me. Like, oh,
Mm.
this is red. Yeah, that's red.
Yeah.
It's dog
Yeah.
food. Not doing that. I
Yes.
love that. So thank you for that. And the weight loss that, because I'm still on my journey, like I said, I have about 80 pounds to lose. And, but I'm very proud of you. I'm very,
Thank
very
you.
proud of you. I really am. I think that what you did was extremely hard because at 400 plus pounds, it is really hard to look at that and say, how am I going to deal with this?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
the takeaway is nothing is impossible,
That's right. That's
right?
right. Yeah.
Nothing is impossible. You can do this,
Yes. If
because I don't want people who are like 500 or 600 pounds thinking that's it. I'm done. I'm
no,
done for,
no,
you
no.
know?
Let me tell you, I'm going to close it out with this. I'm going to say
Yes.
that when I was, when I was on a half dozen medications, unable to stand and do my job, unable to fly, socially isolated, I believed that it was my fate to fade into darkness.
Mm,
That's what
mm,
I believed. I believed that my best case life scenario was to lose 50 or 75 pounds. I would stay in like the mid 300s. Maybe I could find someone to spend my life with, and I would just trudge that road forever. That's what I believed was my best case scenario. Because in
wow.
my mind, if someone lost 200 pounds, they would make a documentary about them. Like, that's
Right.
so huge. Who
Right.
loses the weight and keeps it off? You hear
Right.
people lose weight and
Right.
then they gain it right back, plus
Right.
more. And so I just didn't think it was real. And when I first went in to get help, I didn't expect that this would happen. I just wanted enough relief for the
Mm-hmm.
pain to stop. And when I was given a new life, a complete new lease on life, my career bounced back stronger. My
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
life bounced back stronger. My finances bounced back stronger. My body bounced back stronger. When all of this happened, it was just such a gift that came by surprise because I was willing to just tell someone that I was hurting.
So good. Thank you for that. And only just like you didn't do it overnight either. It's
No,
one step at a time,
that's
guys.
right.
One step at a time. Don't get discouraged. Don't look at the numbers because this is what happened to me. I looked at the number like, whoa, I almost have 100 pounds to lose. I can't. No way.
Yeah,
But once I looked at it as, nope, I'll just start today with whatever I can do today.
yeah,
And then tomorrow I started the same. I'll just do today what I can do today.
yeah.
Right. So that's all you can do. Right. Because if you look at the number, like if you would have looked at the number, somebody said to you, okay, Johnny, we're going to go for 300 pounds. You would have been like, what?
That's
Exactly.
ridiculous. Yes.
Exactly. Right. You would have just exactly what you would have done, laughed or cried and
Yeah,
be like, I'm never going to be able to do this.
yeah, yeah,
So just
yeah.
one bit at a time, guys. One bit at a time, one moment at a time, one bite at a time.
That's
And
right.
there's a lot of great programs even now on virtual, on you can just turn on your computer and find a lot of great information out there. So
Yes.
don't be discouraged
No.
because sometimes even I get discouraged when my weight goes up a little. I'm like, oh no, what am I doing wrong? It's like, just don't be discouraged, one day at a time, right? You
Yeah.
didn't get there overnight, Johnny. I'm sure it took you some time to get there,
That's
you
right.
know? Yeah.
Exactly. And I'll say, if listeners have any questions,
Yes.
I'm happy to answer. I'm sure you will too, Nina.
Yeah,
My
absolutely.
email is Johnny, JOHNNY at refractivecoaching.com. And you can find me on Facebook at Refractive Coaching, and or you can go to my website, refractivecoaching.com, and I'm happy to give more specifics. I didn't want to go too deep into those on the podcast, but I'm happy to give those on a one-on-one. And Nina, if people have
Perfect.
questions about your journey, what do you
Yeah.
recommend?
So they can find me at, they can email me actually at hello@straighttalknosugaradded.com.
Hmm.
Same thing for all of my Twitter handles. It's all of my handles actually. It's
Hmm.
nosugaradded.com. So
Hmm.
straighttalknosugaradded.com. But Johnny, I really, really highly recommend that people do reach out to you. I think that you definitely know what you're doing. I already listened to your podcast. So if anybody doesn't know, please do go to Refractive. He is pretty much on all the platforms, I
Yes.
believe, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and listen because it is really, really, really insightful. I loved your keynote. That was amazing. I
Thank you.
still think about it. It was so good.
Thank you.
So I really highly recommend that everybody just goes to your site. I'll make sure to link all of your information as well
Yep.
below, and so that people can find you and follow you and listen to you and book some coaching sessions because I think it'll be worth their time for sure.
Yes.
So
Thank
this was
you.
amazing. This was
Thank you.
really good.
And Nina, as I simulcast this episode on my podcast, why don't you tell my listeners who may not be familiar with your podcast what they could expect if they tune into different episodes?
So my episodes are really about life topics. That's what I talk
Mhm.
about. So I have great thinkers like yourself and people who are coaches, entrepreneurs, business developers, things like that, come on the show and talk about real life stuff
Yeah.
and how they overcame challenges in
Yeah.
their lives. How did they become that 9-figure business? How did you become a coach? How did you lose your weight? That's what I want to talk about. Real
Beautiful.
life topics to challenge and transform our thinking.
That's right. Exactly. Well, that's
Awesome
good.
sauce.
I'm so happy that we work together on this,
Me
Nina,
too.
and I'm happy that our listeners get to enjoy each other's perspectives.
This was amazing. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Johnny.
Thank you. Have a great day,
Yeah.
Nina.
You too.
You have just listened to another great episode on Straight Talk, No Sugar Added. Don't forget to subscribe so you can get more amazing content. Also, visit our website and YouTube channel. Until next time, with more great episodes coming your way.